Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today on building a resilient workforce, strategies for employee wellbeing. We have roughly an hour booked for this webinar this morning, and we will spend around 30 to 35 minutes on the presentation discussing the topic, and then we can move on to any questions that you may have at the end. I'm excited to be co-presenting this very important topic today with our fantastic speaker, Garth, from Life and Progress. My name's Katie Williams. I'm a senior HR business partner from the Kingswood Group. So a little bit about me. I've been working in my current role for over 10 years, supporting a number of small to medium-sized businesses on a HR retained basis for different industry sectors. Many of my clients I've supported since the start of my role, and I've also worked with clients on a pay-as-you-go or project basis. My role is varied from drafting employment contracts through to handbooks and any ER support. I have a personal interest and passion for employee wellbeing, and I know firsthand how important wellbeing is for all of us individually and how we all individually can play a supporting role. Just a little bit about GoToWebinar. This platform is very new to us. If you do have any questions, please use the chat function. Everyone is muted today, so I can't see or hear you. So that's why the question box is useful to put any questions that you may have or any technical issues that you may have as well. Just a little bit more about us at Kingswood Group. We are a HR consultancy and we focus on delivering HR solutions that are generally tailored to your business. We understand that no two organisations are the same. Whether you're a small or medium-sized enterprise looking to scale up, or if you're a larger company aiming to refine and improve existing HR process, we can work with you. Is everyone hearing this okay?
I can hear you loud and clear, Kate.
Oh, okay. I just wondered if you couldn't. Thank you, Garth. So just going back to our services are designed to be flexible and comprehensive, and we support you in enhancing operational efficiency as well as staying compliant with employment laws and regulations, and ultimately freeing up your time so we can focus, or you can focus on the matters that are most, which is growing your business and focusing on your people and employees. So whether you need an employee handbook or employment contracts or someone to chair a disciplinary, we can help you with this. We can work on a retained basis, as I've mentioned, or work with you on a pay-as-you-go basis. We're based in Essex, in Colchester. However, I'm based in Colchester, but we have team members all across Essex, as well as other places in the UK. Just very quickly as well, we also have a recruitment part to our business. Our recruitment team are excellent and able to help you fill any roles from top tier talent. We've got proven success in sourcing and placing candidates in specialist HR roles. So if you do need any help or want to talk to one of our recruitment team, please do drop us a line. So I'd now like to hand over to Garth for our main presentation on why resilience matters in 2025. Over to you, Garth.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Katie. And hello, everybody. And thank you for inviting me in today to talk about resilience. It's a very much used word, and maybe sometimes it's overused in some areas, and some people might sort of turn down their hearing when people start to talk about resilience. But hopefully this is going to work. Share screen. I haven't done this before through here, so bear with me a second that I find the right screen to share. There we go. That should hopefully come up for you now. Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. Why resilience? Good question. We all have it. We all have different ways of thinking about it as well. And some people might think that, well, my resilience doesn't really matter. But we'd like to talk a little bit more today and for you to ask questions as well as to why resilience matters today in 2025. Well, why does it matter? Well, I think when it comes to workplace, and certainly workplaces are not all the same. As Katie said earlier, organizations are very different, even organizations of similar size. So when we look at employee numbers, for example, and that we're looking at a small to medium enterprise with maybe around about anywhere between 5 and 200 people. There's a lot of things go on within that organization, and certain things can impact. But I think that overall, that it is our resilience, our own resilience, plus combined with others, that actually help businesses get along. And the more we can look after ourselves, I think the better we can face the challenges that come our way, because the world keeps spinning on us. The world doesn't leave us alone, not only just in work life, but also home life as well, in our personal lives. So things are very busy. We understand this, and part of the work that we do here at Life in Progress is to provide employee assistance programs. That's a 24-hour support line for anything in life. That's a very grand statement, but we're not here today to talk about that. We're here today to talk about resilience and actually why it does matter. Well, I think it matters from maybe a business point of view first and foremost. So let's have a look at it from that point of view. So here are some numbers, and this is the latest data from absence and engagement in UK's in small to medium enterprises. So that also includes the mental health as well. So it's still a top concern. And there is a number that's pinned on how much does all this cost? Well, 51 billion pounds is the estimated number. And this is a combined figure across the whole of the UK. So yeah, health-related absence and mental health-related absence and presenteeism costs UK businesses approximately 51 billion. Now, within that 51 billion, I mean, that's a mind-blowing number, isn't it? We should be able to do something about it, shouldn't we? And I think that we can, because when it comes to the other part of that, the presenteeism, well, they've come up with a number of, actually out of that 51 billion, 24 billion. That's what it costs us in presenteeism. This is where people are coming into work and they're not really fit for work. And they're there for many differing reasons, that they may feel pressure that they've got to come in because they think their job might be at risk, because they've got to take time off to actually deal with a physical or mental health condition, and which time there is actually time to recover from as well. So people aren't doing necessarily as much as we could do for ourselves. But it's not just the fear of maybe losing a job, it's maybe the fear of actually, well, the impact on my team. What's going to happen if I take a day off? And that just increases the pressure and stresses for everybody. So yeah, we're under a lot of pressure sometimes to maybe turn up for work when we're not actually fit for work. And that cost of 24 billion, I think it's higher than that. It's very difficult to calculate. It's very difficult to calculate a cost of many different extrapolations of someone not turning up to be in the workplace. The impact on maybe of being in the workplace and not being able to do their job, maybe making a mistake, for example, something they've overlooked that normally they wouldn't. And that mistake costs money, and it could cost a business its business. So there are things that we really need to consider here. We have to make sure that we are okay. And I think, with the services provided by the likes of Kingswood and ourselves, that we're giving more access to pathways to support, because we need as many pathways to support as possible, because not all pathways are suitable for every individual. So we need to provide a range of services. Now, those services that we provide do actually help with some of these costs. But let's forget the big numbers, because let's look at some smaller numbers. And well, the smaller number is this, that this is maybe a cost of production loss, just production loss, for one person being out of the workplace for one day. So that other part of the 51 billion, the cost of mental health related absence. And not all mental health and not all physical health can we be totally proactive with. We can't be proactive for every eventuality. So there's always going to be times when actually people do need to be away from the workplace, and for very good reason. The very good reason why people shouldn't be in the workplace when they should be recovering. But everybody's case is an individual, as every organization is different. So we as individuals we are unique. The way that we see the world is unique. But yeah, the cost of the numbers there. So let's have a look at some more numbers, because around 15% of working adults are living already with a mental health condition, most commonly anxiety, depression, or stress. Um, Actually, there's some other numbers we might have heard when it comes to mental health, that 1 in 4 will at some stage in their lives have the challenge of mental health. Well, I think a little bit differently. I think it's 1 in 1. But actually, that represents as 25% of UK adults have been diagnosed with depression or anxiety in their lifetime. And that's data coming from 2023. So that's as recent as I could find. So, yeah, well, that's great. So what does this all have to do with resilience? Well, what is resilience? Well, resilience is the ability to cope. Some people think, oh, it's how I bounce back, how I recover. Well, absolutely, all of those elements are true. Resilience is actually accumulated knowledge that we have of how we have coped in the past, of how we've seen others cope in the past. And we're quite fluid and agile in those thoughts, but actually that's kind of where it is. It's kind of how we think about ourselves and how we react to a situation. And normally we're probably full on and we can accept the challenges that come our way every day, but other times there may be circumstances that are causing pressure in other areas of our life that's maybe starting to overwhelm, and we're maybe not being able to make so many great decisions as we have. And but actually, when we maybe talk about stuff and we open up a little bit, and that we find actually that we're not alone with things, actually our resilience then increases a little bit more, because we're joining in with, we're being included. And sometimes we exclude ourselves from things. But let's come back to those numbers, that 1 in 4 will at some point suffer. So therefore, for the people that then move forward, and if we look forward into accessing services, going through their GP, the NHS, or coming through something like the Employee Assistance Programme or private counselling, and they move through into talking therapy. The NHS has some numbers that in 2022, 2023, 49.9% of referrals to the NHS for anxiety and depressions moved to recovery. So that's a very positive figure, that actually these things do work. Not everything, not one thing works for everybody, of course. There's different variations on how maybe we're helping people deal with levels of anxiety and depression that are beginning to interfere with their life. But we have to question, as I said, that number 1 in 4, because to my mind, we all have mental health, and mental health is something that can be really good one day, and I consider myself to be mentally wealthy, and there are other days when I'm mentally poor, when I'm not feeling so good, and we fluctuate between things. We're not on a static line. In fact, on the mental health continuum, we're never static. We're always moving up and down that continuum. But what does that have to do with resilience? Well, I think that how we cope, how we think we cope, is very important. So the work around that we should be doing is to maybe self-checking in on ourselves, and maybe telling ourselves that we actually can face these things, because we probably tell ourselves very often that we can't do things more often than we can. But what does all this mean for workplace? And why does resilience mean? What does it mean at work? And why is it just more than maybe while dealing with that moment in time, that moment of stress? So resilience is an ability to adapt, recover, and grow from challenges, but not just to cope with maybe the stress of the situation, but to thrive in the face of change and setbacks. And thriving comes from the knowledge that you are coping. So change and setbacks are going to happen in every workplace. And resilience encompasses emotional regulation, adaptability, learning from our experience, as I mentioned, helping teams maintain productivity, helping with morale, trying to keep a smile on our faces while we work. Humor is important in the right ways. And even times of adversity can lead to innovation. So sometimes good things come out of when we are challenged, and we come up with solutions. Because I think that if we can replace the word, oh, I've got problems, with, well, solutions, because there are solutions if we are able to take time, if we're able to reflect and with other people, that add in to a level playing field conversation. And so resilience at work refers to the ability of individuals and teams to adapt positively to pressure, setbacks, challenges, change. Change happens every day, enabling to achieve, and with the focus on enabling to achieve rather than focusing on the problem, what's gone wrong, that blame culture, because that doesn't lead into resilience. That leans out of resilience. So even helping to try to sustain, which is possibly impossible, peak effectiveness. We can't be 100% every day, and it's okay. We're not out to, no such thing as perfection, they say. But I think we set out to try to be as best as we can. No one goes to work to do a bad job, really, do they? But sometimes circumstances can envelop us and disable us from able to do that instead of enabling us. So thinking about resilience and working with resilience, I think, is more important than maybe just thinking about toughing out stress, because we certainly know from other areas and probably prior knowledge that dealing with stress, well, maybe I can look after stress in ways that I know how to. So I have my own coping mechanisms. I might do a bit of breathing. I might just need to just go outside and get a breath of fresh air. That's proper breathing without realizing it. I just might need a moment just to assess what's happened and to work out what's next. So yes, I can tough something out, but actually going into the proactive and developing the capacity to recover, to learn and to grow from that, I think that's the bigger message. And why is resilience more than stress management? Well, stress management focuses on techniques to handle stress, as I say, after it arises. So that relaxation exercise, cognitive reframing, or emotional regulation. And resilience is about building the psychological and emotional resources in the first place. So let's do that first. Let's not just keep reacting to a stressful environment. And when stress happens, what can we do before that? So in other words, stress management is reactive while resilience is proactive. So let's just do a versus aspect here of stress management versus resilience. So what's the focus? Well, with stress management, it's about those symptoms and doing something about it after the event. With resilience, the focus is actually building capacity to handle adversity. So very different. So it's more strategic rather than a reactionary thing. So the approach, stress management is reactive, but it's good. Don't get me wrong. Stress management is good, and we do need to deal with stress. We need to remove stress wherever we can. But stress is a very emotive word. It's got emotional attachments for every individual, and stress means something different to everybody. So stress isn't actually a great word in itself. But yeah, it's a reactive. We can look after stressful situations, managing those symptoms after the event. But with resilience, it is proactive. It's setting your stall out from the very beginning. If this happens, how might we cope with it? What might be our strategies towards coping mechanisms? And because we're all individuals, we all have different coping mechanisms, we all have different ideas. And actually a little bit of EDI here, that the more ideas we have on the table, we're going to have to compromise around stuff for sure, maybe, but there's going to be something really good come out of that. So yeah, being proactive, looking at the strategies. So yeah, well, those techniques of stress management, as I mentioned, there are things, and we mustn't forget them. Reframing is really good. In fact, here's a perfect reframe for stress. Remove the word stress and just replace it with pressure. That's just reframing. That's very simple and easy thing to do. But the word pressure doesn't have the same emotional attachments. In fact, it has more logical attachments for me, for example, than stress, which has got lots of emotional attachments, because there's lots of things that have stressed me over my life. And of course, the brain goes back to those moments and kind of loops them all together, and just thinking about that has already caused me a little bit of adrenaline and cortisol to come into my system. So yeah, breathing will help me reduce those symptoms and help me get over it. But actually, when it comes to resilience, it's about having an open mind. It's being flexible, and maybe, and we can't be looking at life through rosy tinted glasses and everything's perfect and be totally optimistic and positive about everything. That'd be terrible, because life isn't that. There's a balance between pessimism and an optimism. And it's okay to be pessimistic about some things, and it's okay to be optimistic. But if we're just all one or the other, then we're a bit out of balance with stuff. But then that's where support comes in. So the support that we can have with resilience, so that support can come from partners, family, neighbours, it comes from colleagues, it can come through professional services. So there's plenty of support. And what stops us seeking support? Well, there's the fear of being judged, isn't it? So sometimes I may not want to talk to somebody about something because I've got a fear of being judged with that. So I just don't talk about it. So open and honest, genuine conversations are really what we need. So we have to do that in safe environments. So building resilience and having support is actually needing a place of safety for us all. And if we don't feel safe, then we're not going to feel that we're getting the right support. And so services that are provided around organizations and individuals are there to really just to be there. And what's the outcome once we start to access these things? Well, with stress management, of course, that's a relief from that stress, or pressure, as we should call it. But it's temporary because it's going to come again. Also, that there's a saying, isn't there, that all storms pass. Well, it can be stormy for longer periods of time for some people, and that a storm isn't just a quick transient thing. A storm might last for some time, and when it does last for some time, then that's when we need to be thinking about looking out for support, because if we're suffering with our own emotional connection of the word stress, and all that adrenaline and cortisol is in our system for long periods of time, that's when it becomes harmful to us physically and also mentally. But so yeah, stress management, we can do something to relieve that, and that's very important that we do, because we want to reduce cortisol and we want to reduce that adrenaline as well. We want the other good hormones, don't we? The oxytocins, the serotonins, and all these things. But anyway, through resilience, we can, by thinking about the good hormones and focusing on those, well, we can then start to thrive in more areas of our life and maybe work. And that will always lead to long-term growth and sustained well-being. And I think that it is by small degrees that we achieve greater change that remains part of the furniture, because this does need to remain part of the furniture. Talking about our mental health, we know more than ever, is very important, but having channels to do that is vital. But what can we do for ourselves, maybe, because work can lead a lot of people, and there's the term burnout. We've all heard of it. Have we actually gone through it ourselves? I think probably we go through it more than we maybe realize, but maybe we have a good amount of resilience. So yeah, that resilience. I like to think about resilience as a bank account, but a bank account that I don't know what's in my account. So if I do have a particularly week with lots of different pressures, at the weekend, I really need to check in with myself and then give myself that moment of, well, I need to focus on myself a little bit. I need to do something for me that just makes me feel good, that has those good hormones going on. And that's me then paying back into my account of resilience. Because when stuff happens in life, and some big stuff happens in life sometimes after those events, we come through it and we think, oh, I got through that. How did I get through that? It's because our resilience, our account, had stuff in it. And actually there's hidden depths. And sometimes challenge makes us rise higher. But we need to understand what are the warning signs, don't we? Because burnout, we don't want that, do we? We don't want anyone to establish that. So yeah, keeping a lookout. And actually, what is the impact of poor well-being? So spotting early signs of burnout, presenteeism, quiet quitting, some people call it, often appears as fatigue, chronic fatigue, irritability, disengagement. And then when that's presenteeism, being physically present but mentally checked out can mask these issues. While quiet quitting is maybe seen, maybe an employee is doing the bare minimum of disengaging from teams and losing enthusiasm for their work. I think that a sure sign of pressure and people that are enduring too much pressure, remember we used to think of that word as stress, well, the first thing that kinds to go is a sense of humor, maybe the shine, the sparkle in the eye. So we can see little signs right from the very get-go. And if we're in a small organization, then we're going to know people quite well. Maybe not just as colleagues or close colleagues, but also maybe as friends. So we're going to see changes. We might be aware of some situations that are going on for people that we can't dive into and ask direct questions because we can't do that. But we can be supportive and we can be there for people and we can be those pair of ears. But listening and looking out and then signposting and not wanting to dive in. So I could say, for example, if I was noticing a colleague that was showing signs of burnout, that look, I think things may not be so great for you at the moment. They went for me a while ago. I called the EAP and I had a good outcome from that. You might want to consider looking for some support and leave it at that, because you don't need to give detail, but just by me saying, well, I've used a service that was helpful, might just be enough for someone to reach out and then to maybe change a process that seems to be heading towards that burnout. So looking out for early signs is important. Even sort of declining work quality, maybe, where normally there was a level of production and quality that maybe it's just dropped off. Maybe little things have been left out. Maybe people are withdrawing more and more from maybe social interactions, that they're not chatting by the water cooler or at the kettle in the tea room. So there's many different things that we can look out for. And the impact of poor well-being on team performance morale, well, poor well-being leads to missed deadlines, low energy and reduced creativity. And nearly 70% of UK employees report feeling uneasy, sharing opinions due to fear of criticism, which stifles team morale and innovation. So disengagement can spread quickly and impacting the whole of the team's productivity and satisfaction. So I think if we want ourselves to thrive, businesses will thrive. It's something that happens more and more. If we're in thriving environments, we're going to thrive a bit more for ourselves. But we can create thriving environments in the workplace by being open, honest, genuine, and being inclusive. And making sure that people are aware that we're looking out for you as a human being, as well as an employee. And when we start to respect the human being, full stop, then so much more happens. So much more happens in more positive ways. So yeah, looking for those warning signs. Well, we can have our toolbox as well. So how do we boost well-being within our employees? Well, maybe there's a low-cost route or no-cost well-being initiatives. And there are. Well-being doesn't have to cost money. And what it does cost a bit of is time, and maybe you see time as money. But that's an investment well made, spending a bit of time. Offering maybe just in straightforward flexible working arrangements, maybe some peer support groups, maybe more regular check-ins, maybe access to well-being resources at little or no costs. Simple gestures like encouraging breaks, promoting physical activity, and recognizing achievements go a long way. And in recognizing achievement, sense of reward. That if I say to somebody a team member that's done a piece of work that saved me a load of time and effort, that I just spend 10 seconds thanking them, genuinely thanking them for saving me a lot of effort, and just verbalizing that goes a long, long way. And that will lift somebody. And if I do something for somebody and they tell me that was a good thing, the likelihood is I might be more inclined to do that next time around. And when push comes to shove, that we'll all be pushing and shoving together. So yeah, little things can go a long way. However, there are other things that we can bring in. There are that mental health support options through services, through mental health first aiders. They can be trained and active in the workplace. There's also EAPs, and of course I will talk about EAPs because that's the industry that I'm in. And employee assistance programs are 24-hour support advice line for anything in life, primarily dealing with that word that we used to call stress, that word we call pressure, and that's primarily what they do. And they can be brought in at medium cost. They don't cost the earth, but we can look at the low cost for sure. But then when we look at maybe things that might cost us a little bit, and there is a figure saying for every £1 spent in well-being, this has come from the Employee Assistance Professionals Association, that for every £1 invested, there is a £9 return. Now that's pretty good, isn't it? So yeah, maybe a little bit more of a thought that maybe we might be able to bring more into the workplace, because that confidential support for both personal and work-related issues, and also to be able to talk to somebody who knows that confidentiality is important. And mental health first aiders are trained in that way as well. But through the EAP, you're going to be speaking to qualified counsellors. You're going to have access also to legal advice and financial advice, things that really can help us and help our overall well-being, because financial well-being is part of our well-being. Our physical health has to be aligned with our mental health. So there's many things that we can do to look after ourselves. But that safe place I talked about earlier, that can only come from the top. That can only come from people who are leading for creating that space. And that's about sharing, not oversharing, not sharing detail, but headlines. So, but giving people a chance, creating a table and invite everybody to it to talk about well-being, because well-being has got a very wide range. So when it comes to this thing we call culture in the workplace, and that's not a geographical thing, that's down to basically, I see culture of a workplace is what do I have to do and what can I get away with? That seems to be predominantly a culture that you kind of see, and you kind of align yourselves with that organization and you join in. But creating that culture, embedding well-being, has to be into leadership and line management first. It has to come from there. Grassroots are calling out for it. We know that all employees need support at any level, whether they're just a team member, a supervisor, team leader, manager, senior manager, executive, whatever it is, we're all employees. So that's the level playing field. But we have to embed that into leadership and line management, that the well-being is there, that we have to model healthy behaviors. We have to look out and spot early warning signs, and we have to support our teams. And this buy-in is essential for leadership because it will lead to lasting cultural change. So there's a role here also for HR in driving sustainable people practices. And HR can help review and update policies to prioritize well-being, ensure fair access to support, and to promote diversity and inclusion. So access through to HR, I think everyone's involved, aren't they? And that has to be to be inclusive. So there are some policy tips here: absence management, flexible working, return to work support. Some policies might need to be updated on absence to include mental health as a valid reason for leave. You'd be amazed some organisations don't have that. And since April 2024, all UK employees have the right to request flexible working from day one of employment. Not all organisations openly talk about that. We can provide structured return to work plans for those recovering from health challenges, mental and physical, and ensuring that support has to be ongoing. And there's a gradual reintegration, for example, that my recovery period is correct, that I am fit for work, that I'm not going to be, no longer am I going to be absent from the workplace, but I'm certainly not going to engage in presenteeism. I'm going to wait till I'm ready. So I think there are key takeaways here of how to build a wellbeing plan that fits your business and budget. There are strategies to recognise and respond to mental health concerns early, and ways to embed a culture of resilience, not reliance, in your workforce. So it's resilience, not reliance. So I'd like to bring that to a close there. Any questions? I think is probably the next segment.
Thank you so much, Garth. That was just, I was frantically writing notes because so many kind of great words of wisdom, just some
Oh,
really some, yeah, no,
experience,
definitely,
words of
no,
experience.
definitely.
I
Words
prefer
of
that, words of
experience.
experience.
Oh, well, I've made plenty of notes that I can take away from today. So thank you for kind
You're
of
very
what you've
welcome.
shared and what you've done. There are some questions, and actually just on the last point that you were making about kind of strategies really in terms of what HR, obviously my background is HR, and what we can do to help support. And you talked about obviously reviewing policies on absence management, flexible work, in raising the profile that obviously that is now a day one right, but the return to work interviews are so important. And I have found, like, over the years, they are missed. That
Yeah,
having that conversation from when someone returns after a period of absence, being
yeah,
able to understand and discuss and be able to support that employee is really
yes.
key. um, so yeah, that was kind of like, a
That's
key
a
point for
question
me.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah. I mean, I suppose it's the importance of it, isn't it? And knowing how to do it. That there is a
yeah,
way of actually holding a return to work interview. And in the past, I've
there is.
actually trained managers on how to do it, because it's setting that scene, being able to get the right information from that person for them to be able to feel that they can share with you, important information. There's just so many benefits from doing a positive, good return to work meeting. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So
So in that return to work, I've got I'd just like to make a personal point there that a return calling it a return to work interview is quite scary for people,
yeah,
uh, because I'm being interviewed, I'm going to be quizzed. I,
yeah,
I might be doubted. So when it comes to presenteeism and why I'm actually still in work, well, I'm not good because might have fears about all these things. So the return to work. Let's use one of those techniques that we looked at in our list, which is to reframe. I'd love
yeah,
to be able to reframe that
mm,
because it should be more about welcoming you back and making sure that you're okay
yeah,
to do your job.
mm.
That's it.
Yeah, it's a
Returning to
great point.
work interview is like, well, I'm. It feels a little bit of a tribunal sometimes at one extreme,
Yeah, yeah.
and there may be somebody that maybe telling an untruth. And here's the other big thing. I talked about open and genuine conversations, and sometimes, we also touched on day one absence management. Well, as an
Mm,
organisation, if I have to phone in and speak to my line manager,
mm,
that's a toughie. And especially if I'm taking that day off because I can't cope with the pressure, I can't cope with the stress that
mm,
line manager is maybe putting me through.
mm.
So how inclined am I then to tell that line manager on the phone, I'm not coming in today because of you? Not going to
Yeah,
happen. It's
yeah.
not going to happen. People are going to mask and shield. Oh, I've got a sore throat. I've got a bug. I've got this. I've got one of the, if I've got kids, maybe one of the kids is ill. I've got to take emergency parental leave.
Mm,
They're going to shield and they're going to skew your numbers when it comes to actually trying to work out. And here's the other thing.
mm,
In all my years and talking at many different levels, I would say 80% of businesses, maybe more, do not know how much stress related absence costs them as an organization.
mm,
So that return to work thing, yeah, essential, absolutely essential, because
mm.
you've got to make sure that you're all right to come back
Yeah,
into join. And it's not about
absolutely.
spreading germs. It's not about that, although there is an
No.
element. COVID certainly taught us a lot about
Yeah,
and taught us new stuff, didn't it? But you see,
yeah,
our resilience has increased because of all those experiences that we've had.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah. Well, next question.
Yeah, the other kind of, I suppose, personal observation I made as well was you said every case is individual. Everyone's recovery is individual, and I think sometimes my experience through different companies is that, well, X has been off with X and they came back in X time, and it,
Yeah.
you can't kind of, if someone's been off long term with a serious health condition, like you said, everybody's recovery is individual, and we have to appreciate that, don't we? And it's working with that person to, bring them back to work, possibly on a phased return, if that is most
Yeah,
appropriate.
it depends on
Yeah,
it depends on the
yeah,
criteria, because if somebody is
yeah,
actually suffering isolation, and,
yeah,
isolation is a terrible thing,
yeah,
and to keep people stuck away on their own isn't
yeah,
necessarily the thing, but maybe to have a Teams meeting once a week, where
yeah,
people still feel included.
yeah,
In fact, I
definitely.
went to an organization the other week. I'm not going to name who they were, but somebody was on maternity leave,
Mm,
and they were due to come back. And they had actually turned up to the internal meeting, because they they'd been keeping in touch through Teams meetings sporadically, just on the key things, not on daily stuff, but on
yeah,
major things. So they were kept in the loop. And that
yeah,
person said, I'm really well informed.
yeah,
And so coming back to the workplace is actually, I'm really looking forward to it. There's some stuff I really want to get my teeth into. And that was
yeah,
a very positive moment in that environment, of course. But it's
yeah,
not the same for everybody. But I thought that
yeah,
was a lovely reflection on a process that obviously
yeah,
that company and organization has gone, well, okay, so you're off on maternity leave, but we still like to include you if you would like, at whatever
yeah,
level you want to be included.
yeah. So
You
important.
know,
No, so important.
yeah,
Do you know what?
and that's not an HR missive, is it? That's an interaction
No.
and understanding somebody's challenges,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's the critical
absolutely.
point, isn't it? Understanding
Yeah,
the challenge so we can make adjustments.
yeah. Do you know what? I've got a really good question that's just come in
Oh
that
yes,
fits very nicely. So this is, well, obviously COVID,
yes.
all of us working from home, and still many people are still working from home. So when employees mainly work from home and the only contact is like Teams and whatever kind of online platform that you use, how can you spot the signs that someone is quiet quitting or
Camera
burnout? Is
off.
there?
First one, the biggest one, camera off. If people don't have
Oh,
their camera
okay.
on,
Yeah.
I really would. It'd be like having a meeting with somebody and not being in the same room. So Teams
Okay.
has replaced this face-to-faceness,
Yeah.
and some people may have some reasons that they
Yeah.
don't want to have that camera on. But I
Yeah.
think that if we're open straight away, if I was to say, for example, I've just had some dental work done and I would like to have my camera off, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And that's, but I've got to be able to feel safe to say that in the first place, haven't I? That's the thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
But
but I think,
you can't say that, can you? All the time.
no. But for remote working and blended working is great. Some people really suit remote working,
Hmm.
and some people don't.
Hmm.
Um, but the signs, I think, camera off is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I think seeing someone in a meeting being constantly distracted, you kind of can see. So there are
Yeah.
visuals. Also, the fact that maybe they're not joining in, maybe they're not asking their usual annoying questions,
Yeah.
or and I turn that into a moment of humour there, because not all questions are annoying. But yeah, they're not, maybe there's what we might assume for them to be their being, you know,
Yeah.
that we see most of the time.
Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as normal, so I can't say that someone's behaviour is normal. Maybe it's normal for them within their
Yeah.
realm. And if it steps outside of that, then I start to notice. But certainly, tone of voice,
Mm-hmm.
engagement.
Yeah.
Just we are all pretty expert as human beings, every one of us, of being able to gauge interactions more or less.
Sure.
Some may not have capacity to maybe understand some emotions, facial expressions, tone of voice. There's the differences. Neurodivergent world, there's many, many different ways. But we have to take into account the individual. I think in that case, every time it's a kaleidoscope. We look at somebody, they're similar colors, but they're arranged differently into their own
Mm.
beautiful pattern.
Yeah.
And of course, the way they see the world is through their own unique lens.
Yeah.
So but we're all like that. Sometimes we forget that other people are like us in that respect. And so I
Yeah,
think leveling the
definitely.
playing field, bringing in and just asking a human question, because we can say, look, are you okay? But we can re-ask that question, are you really okay?
Yeah, quite.
And
And I think that's a good tactic.
can
Yeah.
I flip that back into ourselves? Because how often in the morning that you might just check in the mirror in the morning, wash the face, clean your teeth, whatever you're doing, whatever the morning ablutions are, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, yeah, good to go, and you're out of the house.
Mhm.
However, we never stop and look at ourselves. And I never, sometimes I do, because I talk about this, looking in the mirror, and I look at myself and I go, how are you?
Yeah,
And then I go, yeah, come on, really, how are you? I
yeah,
ask myself directly, looking at myself. It's quite strange, I admit, but I find that moment. And of course, I do other things. I have my Mind Pal. I have a mental health app that actually once or twice a week it pings me. And when it pings me, I don't think, oh, another message or another email. I think, oh, me time.
yeah,
This is the moment to check in for myself, because
yeah,
I'm really aware that we have to ask ourselves genuine questions like that, and we have to give ourselves genuine answers. And we
yeah,
mustn't just fob it off, or I'll be okay tomorrow. I'll be all right.
yeah,
I'll be better. I'll do this. I'll do that. There's always mañana. Well, because there isn't for some.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it doesn't happen. So, or it certainly doesn't happen the way we want it to happen. So,
yeah,
yeah, that's why an EAP is a really good thing,
yeah. We
because I can
we
ask those questions. Yeah.
oh God. Well, you might not know the answer to this, but just had a question in going back to rephrasing the title "Return to Work"
Yes.
meeting.
Oh, right.
Any su-
Yes.
any suggestions on how to rephrase that? Which I actually think is a really good question, um, because
Yeah.
like you said, and for the reasons that you said, it can feel um, just that title different to what the
Yeah.
purpose is. Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
put you
Um,
on the spot there.
yeah, you have, and nothing really like comes to mind, because I think it needs some good thought.
Yeah.
Um, but it's if we try to look at it, well, what actually is it?
Mm,
It's us as an organisation trying to work out if you're okay, and that you're
yeah.
okay. Come back to do what we love to pay you for doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's how do you put that then into like return to work interview? Well, first of all, let's just take out the word interview,
Yeah.
and then just as actually a pre as a it's a brief, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. We're setting the scene. Because really, I should have had my fit note anyway, signed off by the doctor that I am fit to return to work. If I have been off for but it depends what absence we have. You see, some organisations will have that return to work
Mm.
even after 1 day of
Yes.
absence. Okay, so some people might think, oh, that's a bit critical. you know, that's
Uh,
more. Yeah, do you see what I mean? So
yeah.
I would actually just not have a return to work interview at all. I would leave it the responsibility of the line manager to have a conversation, to have that pre-shift or pre-brief,
Mm.
just to make sure that you know it's a meeting wanting to know how you are and what you're with, and also for the organization to be able to say, well, there's maybe been a change while you've been away, because not all absences are 1 day, but there could be that medium term, few weeks,
Yeah.
or even long term. And of
It
course, we all
depends.
know,
Yeah. Yeah, it
yeah,
depends, doesn't
we all
it?
know the longer that somebody is off work, the likelihood of returning to work decreases
Mm.
over time.
Um, had a suggestion in the chat saying welcome back brief, and I was thinking as you were talking like welcome back meeting, or it's more
Yeah,
the world
there we go.
welcome, it's
Yeah,
more
it's all come
welcoming, isn't
together.
it?
It's
Yeah,
all come
yeah,
together. A welcome
yeah,
back brief. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean, in
a
terms of like,
conversation, a chat, a discussion. What is
yeah,
it? Because it might have different implications depending on the relationship that already exists.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know, because we can't look at it just all rosy glasses. But I think, yeah,
Yeah.
a welcome back brief is good. Yeah.
Mm,
Uh, yeah. Anyone else have any other suggestions? Always welcome,
yeah.
because this really stirs up the pot of thought.
Yeah.
And what's served up, I think, is going to be good.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I think if
Yeah.
people just have in mind that sometimes if we reframe something,
Yeah.
we change how we fundamentally think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've got another question actually.
Yes.
I'm a mental health first aider, have been for a number of years, and
Yes.
from an honest point of view, I've seen the real value both personally and in a work situation. But um, the question is, the person has 50 employees within their business. Is there
Yes.
like any guidance in terms of how many mental health first aiders should there be per
Um,
per head? No. Oh, okay.
my my thought, everyone should be.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah,
It should be.
100%.
But not
100%.
every organisation can afford that expense. There are other
Yeah.
ways of raising mental health awareness and making sure that people are have that more as a mindset
Yeah.
within an organisation. I think that is the key. So let's come back to this resilient thing and getting leadership buy-in. That
Mm,
has to trickle out to leadership because there's grassroots need, and the choking point is middle management because middle management is unsure of which way to go,
yeah.
with stuff. Maybe an
Yeah.
employee asking lots and lots of stuff about well-being and what I'm doing is going to put them into a spot. Well, I don't know.
Mm,
I don't know how to respond to a mental health question.
yeah.
And so managers need confidence to be able to have those conversations. So it's not just about mental health. I think it's fundamental skills of managing people. So 50 employees, how many mental health studies? Well, I think Pareto's law is a good thing. It's there for a reason, the 80-20 rule. I would
Okay.
say I would say 20% of your employee base has to have some form of either
Mm,
CPD accredited, because mental health first aid isn't the only option.
mm,
And for some companies, it doesn't fit so well. And it doesn't
okay.
fit because of in a political situations of, well, I can't, say in a company of 10, a small
Mm,
business of 10, and we go two people, so 20% are mental health first aiders. I may not want to speak to either of those two people,
yeah, that's true.
even if they say to me, well, your conversation isn't confidence. And the term first aider kind of means much, much more than somebody is actually signed up to do.
Yeah.
Because you're there as a mental health first aider, don't get me wrong. So my background is NHS mental health. I did my teacher training within adult health mental services. I worked in industrial therapy, but I've also mental health first aider as well. But I think
Okay.
that too much onus is put on an individual, that actually we're there to acknowledge, to see, to maybe start to open up a gentle conversation about well-being,
Yeah.
to be discreet, to hold these things it being in confidence, so that
Hmm.
people know that that's a safe place to talk. Because
Yeah.
someone going around, oh, well, the mental health first aid here over here, somebody like that talking about something would be disingenuous. It would just ruin the whole process.
Yeah.
You need to have trust to speak to somebody.
Yeah.
So those
100%.
open and honest, genuine conversations need to happen. But so for a mental health first aider, it's signposting, being aware of the challenges and
Yeah.
being able to empathetically put those challenges back to the organization and to say that Garth is experiencing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to make adjustments for X and Y. What we're going to do about Z. But I can't go back to the organization. Well, Garth's got some things with A's and C's and B's, D's, Z, Y, and put my own filter over the top of Garth's challenges
Yeah.
and align myself. Oh yeah, that happened for me. And then to that waters everything down. To be empathetic is to totally understand what somebody tells you and to be able to relay that information
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
the same way.
Absolutely.
But the conversations have to be kind and compassionate,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's where
Yeah.
we find things really start
Yeah.
to happen. So good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Parecho's law, but there's many different ways that we can approach
Yeah.
well-being, mental health, because mental health is still a scary word for people still.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No.
Well-being, however, isn't. You
Yeah.
see, this is this emotional attachment to a word,
I know,
and
but yeah, it,
reframing it helps.
yeah,
But this is not to say
absolutely.
that I'm going to call an apple an orange because I only like orange. I can't do that.
No, oh no, that's right.
Okay.
Well,
Any
that
further
was
questions?
well, that was a great answer. Thank you for that.
You're
No, there
welcome.
isn't. So I'm just going to wrap up the webinar today, if I may. So thank you again, Garth, for
Oh,
everything. So we have got some. Well, I'm actually quite excited. We've got a series of neurodiversity webinars taking place through September and October. So yeah, we've got details on our website, but also we'll be sending those through to everyone. So we've also got another webinar on managing employment investigations. That's on Tuesday, the 23rd of September. Again, if you would like to attend, please go and register on our website. Um, And then again on Wednesday, the 22nd of October, we've got the Becoming a Disability Confident Employer. So we have got quite a series of different webinars coming up, which we hope you'll find of interest. Just a couple of other things that are on our website. We've got some useful tools. So if you would like to take a look, we've got a benchmarking assessment, a sexual harassment risk assessment, and also an employment rights bill checklist. So please do take a look at our website with some of those assessments, and they only take a few minutes to do. And some just additional HR services that we offer here at the Kingswood Group. We offer HR project management as well as personality profiling, wellbeing, training, and also, like we've talked about today, the employee assistance program. And also we partner with Breathe HR. So if you're looking for a HR system stroke database, please do contact us and we'll be more than happy to talk you through and give you a demo on Breathe HR. And finally, we have lots of different e-learning bundles that we have available. Please do visit our website again to look at the different bundles that we have, but there's lots of different bundles for different size organisations and different topic areas. So I'd just like to thank Garth again for his wise words, information, knowledge, and thank you for sharing this webinar with us. We really do appreciate your time that you've given us today. So thank you, Garth. So yeah, I'd just like to draw this webinar to a close and thank you everyone for attending. If you have any colleagues that would like to listen to the webinar, we will be saving this to our website so you can listen at your leisure at any time or if you want to listen to it again. So thank you.